What's up, guys? I'm BTC. Hope you're having a happy new year. Blizzard just put out a little year-in review type video, and they also talked about some of the things that we can expect to see in 2018. And one of the things that Jeff Kaplan was talking about was Hero number 27. Earlier today, Blizzard released their first dev commentary of the year. And in it, Jeff Kaplan talked a little bit of a review about what they did in 2017 and then what they're going to do in 2018. But he also said that he had to be intentionally vague with some of their plans for this year just because, you know, things can change. They might go in a different direction with this or that. So they don't want to kind of build up people's hopes and then have them be disappointed later on when it's not exactly what they originally said. So that's completely understandable. Now, tomorrow, what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually do my own year-in review, and I'm going to go over the things that I think that Blizzard did the best for Overwatch and what they did for the worst in Overwatch. So if you're new to the channel, make sure you subscribe so you don't miss it, and all the other awesome Overwatch content I have on my channel. So subscribe and hit that bell so you don't miss any of it. The main thing I want to talk about in this video is Hero 27. But real quick before that, I do have to address something that Jeff Kaplan mentioned and that I take issue with. So let me quickly play this clip for you.
Later in the year, we released 3 brand new heroes. We had Orisa, Doomfist, and finally Moira. So I think they all worked out really well. We've gotten a ton of good feedback. People have really enjoyed playing those heroes.
I don't know if he's trying to sugarcoat this or just put a positive spin on it, but that simply isn't true. Orisa and Doomfist did not work out very well. They both had a lot of bugs. Orisa was underpowered. Doomfist is still the most buggy character in the entire game. Orisa and Doomfist have some of the lowest picked rates of any character in the game. The only character that actually kind of worked out last year was Moira, who was pretty well balanced, although she did have some pretty bad bugs, which have since been fixed. But there's still a long way to go with Doomfist and Orisa. Like, to say that they worked out well just isn't true. Orisa is starting to get used a little bit more now, only because the pirate ship stuff for the different payload maps is now incredibly powerful and is a very strong and valid strategy. But for Doomfist, he's still incredibly buggy, and he is still one of the lowest picked characters in the entire game. Saying that those characters worked out well just isn't true, and it kind of bothers me that they're not owning up to it. But anyways, that's enough of that. Let's move on to Hero 27. So I'm going to play you the clip that Jeff Kaplan spoke specifically about it.
But obviously, one of the things that is most important to us is heroes. Overwatch is a game about heroes, and we are well along the path on Hero 27. We think the hero is going to be awesome. We think the hero is very needed. The hero, we're not really sure exactly when the release date is. The release date is less important to us than getting the hero right. We have the hero in internal testing, and so far we're having a ton of fun, and we're making a lot of great progress. We're also thinking about heroes beyond Hero 27 as well.
Alright, so let's quickly analyze some of that, because while he was very vague, he also gave us some really good information. So, of course he's going to say the character's awesome, why wouldn't he? But when he's talking about, like, the timeline for when the character is going to release, they do this every single time they release a character. And that's because they don't want people to think that it's going to be released a lot sooner than it actually is. Because if they do need to make those changes, they, again, this is what I said at the beginning of the video, they don't want people to get their hopes up and then all of a sudden have it be delayed. That's kind of the situation that we had with Sombra. You know, everybody was expecting the character to be released a lot sooner than it was because they kept giving us these, like, hints and different clues and stuff about the character, and then it just dragged on and on and on and on, and they don't want to do that anymore. So that's why they kind of, like, prefaced a lot of this with this, well, you know, we're kind of, you know, we're not sure when it's going to be released kind of deal. But the fact of the matter is, if they have it in internal testing, then the character is almost done. So Jeff Kaplan is making it sound like it's going to take a lot longer to actually release the character than it really is, but I would fully expect us to get some sort of official announcement or teaser towards the end of January, maybe early February. Another important detail that Jeff Kaplan gave us was when he was describing hero number 27. He said it was awesome, but that's just kind of fluff. But he also said that it was really needed. And that goes along with the philosophy that Blizzard has for adding new characters. I talked about this at great length in one of my more recent videos. I'll put a link to that down below and on screen. I talked about my prediction for Hero 27 and a lot of different stuff about how Blizzard adds new characters. But a real quick, basic version of it is that Blizzard will add new characters to the game in order to fill a need or something that the game is currently lacking. And that's not just me guessing, they have explicitly told us this on a couple of occasions. A quick example would be Ana. When the game first was released, we only had 3 healers. It was Mercy, Lucio, and Zen, and there just wasn't enough healing in the game, so they added Ana to try to kind of bolster that a little bit. And then later on, another example would be Orisa, where they felt that the game needed another kind of anchor tank like Reinhardt, so they gave us Orisa. Now, I know people kind of want to jump towards the defense category, simply because it hasn't gotten a new hero yet since the game's release. But remember, that doesn't fill a need. That just kind of like adds something. So when Blizzard is talking about filling a need, they're trying to address a specific issue that's going on in the game. With the case of Ana, there wasn't enough healing. With the case of Orisa, there wasn't enough kind of like anchor tanks in the game. So that's what they're doing. They don't really necessarily care that, oh, we have to add 1 healer, then we have to add a DPS, then we have to add a tank. Like, they don't care about that. They're trying to fill that need instead. And from what I can tell, the need in the game right now is something that functions as anti-dive. If you look at all the most popular characters in the top 500 or in the tournaments, they're all dive characters. Those are going to be Tracer, D.Va, Winston, Mercy, Zen, and some Genji thrown into the mix just to balance it out. Sometimes they might swap out the second character for the DPS instead of a Genji to like a Soldier or McCree, but for the most part, it's still dive meta. Now there's, for whatever reason, this myth that the dive meta went away, and it didn't. Again, the pick rates speak for themselves. So when you have dive characters with 70, 80, 90% pick rate, and then everything else is way, way far behind, it means that the game needs something to kind of deal with that high mobility dive characters. Now there are a couple of different ways to deal with this. The way that I suggested is to have a tank with some sort of new damage mitigation. And again, I talked about this at length in that video that I mentioned earlier. But one of the things is, like, you could have a life link where some of the damage is shared with the tank, or you could have an ability that gives damage resistance to certain teammates and that sort of thing. Go check out that video if you want the full description of that. Another thing could be, if they do in fact add a defensive character, it's gotta be something more than just a Talon builder. Because this is what I keep seeing people suggest is, oh, we should have a Talon builder and that will solve it. Turrets in general are really bad at the higher end of play, and they just don't really do anything to affect the dive characters anyway, so adding something like that wouldn't really work. If they add a new defense character, it has to have something new and interesting that will actually affect the dive. Maybe it might be a new kind of slow, because that would definitely fit into the defensive category. I mean, we have Mei, but you have to be really close to Mei in order to get slowed down, and with a dive character, high mobility, that just doesn't really happen. Like the Tracer, the Genji, whoever, they're just going to get away from the Mei, and they're not really going to get slowed down. So maybe a longer range slow or something like that, that could work. Or another thing could be maybe kind of like a reverse Sombra. So when a Sombra hacks an enemy, they can still use their primary fire and move around and such, but they can't use any of their abilities. They're completely locked out. Now, if something was on cooldown, then the timer will still continue to run, but they can't use anything until the hack is over. So a new defensive character could do something kind of opposite. You can still use your abilities, but you can't use any of your primary fires. Or you could have it so that they can use the abilities, but when they do, the cooldown timer doesn't move down. It stays right where it is, so it kind of locks it out. So it's the opposite of Sombra. So you can use it, but then it doesn't cool down. So this sort of thing would do really well with dealing with those dive characters, because when they get into the back line, what ends up happening is they just get shut down. their primary attack gets locked out and they can't do anything except for use abilities. And what this means is they're probably just going to disengage, try to escape, and then try again later. So what do you guys think the new character is going to be? And more importantly, what kind of abilities, what kind of stuff do you think they're going to have? Let me know in the comments. Also, don't forget to check out my Discord server. Follow me on Twitter, Instagram, all that stuff. The links are down below. Thanks for watching. Remember, always blame the controller because it's never your fault. Also, special thanks to all my Patreon supporters for helping to make this all possible. If you'd like to see what kind of cool rewards you can get for supporting the channel, check the links on screen and down below.